The second producer I cover is Bob Johnston, who was born 14th of May 1932 in Hillsborough in Texas, United States. He's best known for his work with Bob Dylan, Johnny Cash, Simon and Garfunkel, and Leonard Cohen, but over the years he has also worked with a very long list and a wide range of other artists. He was born into a professional musical family. Both his grandmother and mother were professional songwriters. When he finished school, he spent some time in the Navy and after that started writing songs. Among these are at least 16 songs for Elvis Presley's films between 1964 and 1968. He worked briefly as a staff producer for Cap Records and then moved to Columbia Records in New York. In 1965, he gained the assignment to produce Bob Dylan, followed by Simon and Garfunkel, Johnny Cash, and Leonard Cohen. After a couple of years in New York, he became the head of Columbia in Nashville, Tennessee, where he knew many of the session musicians, including Charlie Daniels. The first Bob Dylan album he produced was Highway 61 Revisited, which was recorded when he was still in New York. He produced almost all of it, but the song Like a Rolling Stone was produced by Tom Wilson, who produced Bob's earlier albums. Next one was Blonde on Blonde, which was started in New York in October 1965 and completed in Nashville. Many critics have ranked this double album as one of the greatest albums of all time, and I definitely agree. He produced a number of other Dylan albums after this. He produced the album Sounds of Silence by Simon Garfunkel, which was released in 1966, but electric arrangement most know of the song The Sound of Silence was done by Tom Wilson, overdubbing the acoustic version of the song that was on their first album, Wednesday Morning 3 a.m. He also produced their next album, Parsley, Sage, Rosemary and Thyme. Also in 1966, he produced the Louis Armstrong version of Cabaret. In the late 60s, he produced a couple of Johnny Cash albums. In 1967, he produced the Aretha Franklin album Take It Like You Give It. In 1968, he produced Leonard Cohen's first album, Songs of Leonard Cohen, as well as his next few albums. He also toured with him in 1972 playing keyboards. In 1968, he also produced the Blood, Sweat and Tears album, The Child is the Father to the Man. In 1969, he produced the Dan Hicks and his Hot Licks album, Original Recordings. Also in 1969, he produced the Byrds album, Dr. Byrds and Mr. Hyde, and their version of Bob Dylan's Lay Lady Lay. In the early 70s, he became an independent producer because he was dissatisfied with his salary earnings at Columbia, where his hit albums earned him no royalties. He had success with Lindisfarne's album Fog on the Tyne, which topped the British album chart in 1972. He also produced their next album, Dinky Dell, in 1972. In 1973, he produced the Loudon Wainwright III album, Attempted Mustache, Hoyt Axton's album Less Than the Song, another album in 1977, and Pete Seeger's album Rainbow Race, another album in 1996. In 1975, he produced the New Riders of the Purple Sage album, Oh What a Mighty Time, and two other albums over the next 2 years. Also in 1975, he produced the album The Earl Scruggs Review Anniversary Special Volume 1, which featured a huge list of guest artists including Billy Joel, Charlie Daniels, Dan Fogelberg, Roger McGuinn, Loudon Wainwright III, Alvin Lee, Bonnie Bramlett, Buffy St. Marie, Kenny Loggins, Jim Messina, New Riders of the Purple Sage, Ramblin' Jack Elliott, John Baez, Johnny Cash, Leonard Cohen, and the Pointer Sisters. In 1978, he produced Jimmy Cliff's album Give Thanks. Also in 1978, he produced Alvin Lee's album Rocket Fuel. In 1979, he produced the John Mayall album Bottom Line. In 1988, he produced the Waterboys album, The Fisherman's Blues. In 1992, he produced the Willie Nelson album, The IRS Tapes, Who'll Buy My Memories. In 1996, he produced Carl Perkins' album, Go Cat Go, which featured many guest stars including Paul McCartney, George Harrison and Ringo Starr from the Beatles, Bono from U2, John Fogerty, Paul Simon, Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Johnny Cash and Willie Nelson. The album also had a cover version of Blue Suede Shoes with John Lennon and Eric Clapton from the album Live Peace in Toronto 1969, another cover version of that song performed by Jimi Hendrix from archival recordings. Towards the end of his life, he returned to working with fresh talent, including singer-songwriters Natalie Pinkis from the USA, Aaron Falbo from Brazil, and indie rock band Friday's Shard from the USA. Falbo's album 73 was released in 2013. The final project Johnston worked on was Evolution, live at the Saxon Pub, which he co-produced for Austin band Hector Ward and The Big Time in 2015, which was released in 2016. He died 14th of August 2015.